Hey, Scott Spears back here to do another Spears Report. One of my all-time favorite stories involving former pro wrestler, bodyguard for the Shah of Iran, Olympic medalist, the Iron Sheik. And I get the feeling a lot of people, or at least anybody who's spent any time with the Iron Sheik, probably has a lot of stories to tell, and I'm not the only one. There are a couple, maybe 3 or 4 that I could tell, and maybe I'll tell the rest of them, but this is one of my favorites. I was working at the radio station at the time, WMRN, and he came in town for a charity show. And we had the charity show, I believe, on it was one of the nights, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. And he was going to come in before he left town the next day, that morning, early, from like 7 to 9, to do the morning show, live in studio. And it was big excitement, going to be a lot of fun. And I came in to do the news that morning and did the news at like 5:30 to 7. And then at 7 I left the station and I went and I picked up the Iron Sheik at the hotel he was staying at. I think it was the Super 8. And that was an experience because, you know, a lot of people get picked up in limousines and things like that. And at that time I was driving a little black Honda Civic, so I went through the roads of Marion at 7 o'clock in the morning in November, dark, and picked up the Iron Sheik at the Super 8 motel and brought him back to WMRN. And before I left the station that morning to go get the Sheik, I told the morning host, I said, you know, when the Sheik gets here, you might want to operate this show on delay because he's got, shall we say, colorful language. He has a lot of colorful language. And I had known by that point that he had colorful language, spending a couple days with him. So I did say that. I remember saying that. So then I went out, I picked up the Sheik, I brought him back, got him in the studio, and for the first 2 hours, he was okay. No colorful language got out. I mean, some of it was borderline, maybe things you wouldn't say, but not really things you could get in trouble for saying on live radio. And as God is my judge, we got to the last 5 minutes, and I thought, oh my goodness, we're going to make it out of here safe. He didn't say anything. Good. He realizes we're on radio and everything's good. And the person hosting the morning show was sitting in the booth, and I was in the guest room with the Sheik. And he said, one final question for you, Sheik, before we let you get out of here. You've been a great guest. Tell us your memories of Andre the Giant. And you know, like before a hurricane, the sky turns gray and the winds pick up. I felt like that's where I was because I knew from the car ride the previous day that he hated Andre the Giant. And you could just see the Iron Sheik sitting in the studio. You could see his body like grow 10 times the rage. And he called everybody Mr. Mr. by their first name. And this imitation won't be very good, partly because I'm ill and partly because I don't do good imitations. But he said, I want to tell you something, Mr. Scott. Andre the Giant was a horrible person. He said he loved kids. He did not love kids. He was an absolutely horrible person. I spit on him. And he actually spit on the floor of the radio station, which was kind of interesting. Never had that happen before. But he's talking to me, and the host who's running this. See, I can't, at this point, had I been running the show, I would have shut his mic off, or I would have been operating on a delay the whole time, to be honest with you. But I wasn't in the controls. And he said, he ended by saying, Andre the Giant can go himself. And he said the word, and starts with F, ends with K. I'm sure I could say that here, but I don't say that word. So he said that, and immediately you saw the terror come over the morning host's face, because this just went over the airwaves, nothing you can do now, because we weren't operating on a delay. He shuts the Iron Sheik's mic off. You can still hear the Sheik in the background. I heard the tape later on, because he's screaming, ranting, and raving still. We go off the air at 9 o'clock. I walk back to the morning host, and I say, oh, did that get out? And he said, oh yeah, it did get out. End of my career. So I ran into the office because I thought, oh God, if people heard it, they're going to be calling in. So I ran out there to see if people were calling in. And I just casually went out to the office manager and I said, have we gotten any calls? And she said, no calls. I said, oh, okay, good. But maybe it didn't get out. Maybe we were safe. And it just so happens a guy came walking in, probably about a 60-year-old guy, 50, 60-year-old guy, comes walking into the studio to pick up he'd won a quiz or something that morning. He comes walking into the studio and he says, hey, I've been listening to you with the Iron Sheik all morning. And I said, oh, that's good. I said, I was going to test him. I wasn't going to come right out and say, did you hear him say this? I just, well, how'd you like it? And he goes, well, I liked it when he said the word F with K on the end. I said, oh, God, you heard that. He goes, yeah, it was the first thing I understood him say all morning. That's how it happened. My hand to God. Hey, wanted to put a little more on that Iron Sheik story. I was just reminded of the rest of it, kind of hazing in and out here of this little bit of illness I have. Anyway, the interview was over and nobody got fired to my recollect. And we jump back in my Honda Civic and we head back to the hotel. And the Iron Sheik wanted to stop and get breakfast. I said, where would you like to stop, Sheik? McDonald's. Okay. So we went through the drive-thru at McDonald's and he got a sauce. What would you like, Sheik? Sausage McMuffin. Okay. Sausage McMuffin. So then now remember, it's 9:15 in the morning in November, cold here in Ohio. So we're driving around and he says, I would like something to drink. So we pull into a drive-thru and he orders Molson Ice, Canadian beer, at 9:15 in the morning to go with his sausage McMuffins. Of course, what else would you have with your sausage McMuffin? So I didn't get arrested. Maybe I can be arrested now for telling this story. But I think the statute of limitations might have expired. But there I was, 9:30 a.m. on a November morning in Ohio, driving around in my black Civic with the Iron Sheik, riding shotgun, open container, Molson Ice. And the little end of this story, we went back to the hotel and a bunch of cleaning ladies and hotel people wanted autographs. So we went up to his room and I wrote the autographs. I hope they don't see this. It'll kind of ruin them, but I wrote the autographs. The Sheik signed them. He did sign Iron Sheik, but I wrote to blah, 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 and so on and so forth. But the Iron Sheik, boy, had him 2 years at the charity show. There were a lot of stories to tell, and maybe one day I'll get to the rest of them.